all the citizens are struggling down here.
You may recall the news that Sri Lanka was facing one of the worst economic crises in its history, with inflation rocketing, the government mismanagement of funds, and Sri Lankan locals facing fuel, food and medicine shortages. The president fled the country, there were many protests, and a new president was put in place. But what has the experience been like for locals living it? And what's the current situation? A few months ago I spoke to Manura, who shared with us what it was like during the peak of the crisis.
We have to spend at least minimum 4 to 5 days in a fuel queue to fuel up our vehicles. And for a couple of months actually, we didn't have LP gas, which is the main source or like energy source for the cooking needs. And this fuel shortage and all these has impacted on the day-to-day essential needs of people. For example, a couple of months back, 1 kilo of rice was 100 rupees, but now it has gone up to 250 rupees. Same way, every item, including essential items, has been increased more than double.
Locals also saw shortages of key items like milk powder due to the inability for the government to pay for imports. While things have stabilised a bit since July, many people are still struggling. Sri Lankans are suffering from a surge of food prices, as many people in Europe are also experiencing, but to a much worse degree. In Sri Lanka, official figures of food inflation for July were 90.9% and in August rising to 93.7%. It rose further in September to 94.9% and thankfully in October eased to 85.6%. Many Sri Lankans are still skipping meals because the cost of food is so high. Talal, who lives in Colombo, told us what he's seen.
It's sad to see that in majority of Sri Lankan households, they have cut down from 3 meals to 2 meals per day.
While milk powder supplies have improved, it's still an issue for locals.
To use milk powder, which is a common use of milk form in Sri Lanka, and that also has increased exponentially in price, and a lot of individuals are now rationing their use and limiting their calcium intake because of this.
What's causing this and what is the latest? Well, due to the poor management of funds and the economic crisis, Sri Lankans have not had a recovery from tourism since the pandemic, and many people in the country are falling into poverty or deeper into poverty if they were already in poverty before. However, since July there has been further talks with the IMF and World Bank, as well as other sources of potential income, aid or investment. The World Bank is currently looking at the potential to harness energy from offshore wind farms, which will reduce the demand on imported fuels, which are very expensive as they need to be paid in American dollars. As you can see from this graph, there is still much need for humanitarian aid throughout the country, as people struggle with the basics. Talal shares with me what the situation is like now for locals living through the crisis day to day.
Food, fuel and medicine availability has improved over the last few weeks and months in Sri Lanka in comparison to the peak of the economic crisis. The price of everything has increased tremendously, which is affecting the lifestyles of mainly the middle and low income earners of Sri Lanka. If you finally look at the medicine availability, it has also improved drastically. Everyone can get the medicine they require. The essentials were always available. However, the price increased tremendously, where I have noticed certain medicines have increased fivefold. And this is going to majorly impact individuals who take long-term medicines on a monthly basis. Therefore, even though the availability of everything has improved, the price inflation continues and the lifestyles of most Sri Lankans have been affected and is still affected moving forward for the near future until our earning income improves.
And as a Sri Lankan, what we hope is our main problem is the dollar crisis. We don't have enough dollars to import essentials. So I request from foreign travelers: visit to Sri Lanka, enjoy the beauty of this country, and help us to regain our day-to-day lives back. Thank you.